All right, let's talk about building muscle. We get so wrapped up in protein, pre-workouts, and training splits, but what if I told you that one of the biggest anabolic signals you have is probably something you're not even thinking about? Seriously, we're going to break down how that simple water bottle you carry around might just be the most underrated muscle-building tool you own.
So let's just ask the question straight up. Is your water bottle just there to stop you from getting thirsty, or is it a legit anabolic tool? Well, the science is screaming yes. And we're not just talking about getting through your workout. We're talking about a direct, powerful signal that literally tells your muscles it's time to grow. And chances are, you've been overlooking it.
So here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll start with the forgotten growth signal itself. Then we'll look at what's actually happening to your muscles on water. We'll find that anabolic switch, look at some hard evidence, and then I'll give you a full toolkit to put this into practice. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, the forgotten growth signal. Look, we all know that being dehydrated is bad for performance. That's old news. But we're going way deeper than that. We're talking about how the volume of your muscle cells, how full they are, is an independent signal for hypertrophy. You know that awesome pump you chase in the gym? Well, it's way more than just a temporary feeling. It's literally the start of the muscle growth process.
So how do we even picture this? Let's make it super simple. I want you to think of every single one of your muscle cells as a tiny little balloon. The entire game we're playing here is about keeping that balloon as full and stretched as possible. Why? Because a full, tight balloon sends a totally different message to your body than a shrunken, deflated one. This whole concept is called cell volumizing. So what exactly is cell volumizing? I know it sounds a little technical, but it's really not. It's just the process of cramming more good stuff like water, glycogen, and other molecules inside the muscle cell. And when you do that, the cell physically swells up. And here's the kicker. That swelling itself is a powerful direct signal to kickstart muscle growth. And check this out. The difference is just night and day. On one side, you have a swollen cell, our full balloon. That cell is in an anabolic or muscle-building state. Protein synthesis cranks up, and protein breakdown slows way down. But on the other side, a shrunken, dehydrated cell, the deflated balloon, goes into a catabolic state. It literally starts breaking down its own proteins. The message here is crystal clear. A full muscle is a growing muscle. A shrunken one is a muscle that's breaking down. Okay, so we get it. A swollen cell is a happy anabolic cell. But how? I mean, how does the physical act of being full actually send a chemical message to your body to build more muscle? This is where we find the anabolic switch. It all happens in this super cool 4-step cascade. First, you hydrate and eat right, so water and nutrients rush into the cell. Simple enough? Second, the cell physically swells up, and this stretches the cell membrane. Now, this physical stretch is the real trigger. It activates these things called mechanosensitive pathways, which basically sense the stretch and flip the master switch for muscle growth in your entire body, a little thing called mTOR. And once mTOR is on, it's go time. It ramps up protein synthesis and slams the brakes on breakdown. It's that direct. Now, this all sounds awesome in a textbook, right? But does it actually mean you'll build more muscle in the real world? Let's take this out of the lab and into the weight room, because the evidence is pretty darn cool. You gotta see this. A 2024 study on young athletes found something wild. The guys who consistently just drank enough water had, on average, 1.3 kilograms, that's almost 3 pounds, more skeletal muscle mass than the guys who didn't. 3 pounds! That is a massive difference, and it comes from something as simple as proper hydration. But here's the most important part of that whole study, and I want you to really hear this. They found that it was habitual water intake, your day in, day out consistency, that made the difference. It wasn't about being perfectly hydrated at any one moment in time, so you don't have to stress about it 24/7. What really matters is just consistently giving your body what it needs day after day to keep those muscle cells full. Okay, so you're probably thinking, I'm in. How do I do this? Well, that brings us to the best part, your volumizing toolkit. This is the simple, science-backed playbook for getting your muscles as full and anabolic as possible. We're going to break it down into 3 simple tiers so you know exactly what to focus on. Tier A is the foundation. These are the absolute non-negotiables. Tier B is for the proven stuff that gives you a really high-impact boost. And Tier C has the helpful extras that can magnify the whole effect. Let's start at the bottom. So in Tier A, we have the undisputed king of cell volumizing, good old creatine monohydrate. There is no supplement on Earth that's more studied or more proven for this. It literally works by pulling water directly into your muscle cells. This boosts your performance, lets you train harder, and directly drives that long-term growth. It's the gold standard for a reason.
Also in Tier A, we have the ultimate power couple, carbohydrates and sodium. Here's a crazy stat. For every single gram of carbs you store in your muscles as glycogen, your body pulls in about 3 grams of water right along with it. That's a huge driver of cell volume. And sodium? It acts like the shuttle bus, helping to drive both the carbs and the water right into the muscle cell. This is your #1 dietary strategy. And to round out our non-negotiables in Tier A, we have the blood flow enhancers. We're talking about citrulline and dietary nitrates, which you can get from stuff like beetroots. These things boost your body's nitric oxide production. This relaxes your blood vessels, which means more blood flow to your working muscles. Not only does this give you an incredible pump, but it also delivers more nutrients and helps you bang out more reps, all of which contribute to that big anabolic signal.
All right, moving up to Tier B. Here we've got supplements like betaine, sometimes called TMG, and taurine. These are known as osmolytes. You can just think of them as cell protectors. Their main job is to help your cells keep their shape and stay full, especially when you're putting them under the stress of a really tough workout. They're like little bodyguards for your muscle cells. So here's a quick summary you can screenshot. Your Tier A heavy hitters are creatine, carbs, and sodium, and citrulline or nitrates. In Tier B, you've got beta-aine as a great supporter. And down in Tier C, you've got something like beta-alanine, which helps more indirectly. It lets you get more reps, which creates more of that metabolic stress that also leads to cell swelling. So let's bring it all home. What's the ultimate takeaway here? It's that the pump isn't just for looking good in the gym mirror for 10 minutes. It's about understanding the science and using that pump as a real biological tool to drive actual long-term progress. So let's lock these in. 1. Muscle cell swelling is a direct signal for growth, period. 2. A full hydrated cell flips on mTOR to build muscle and turns off the processes that break it down. 3. Consistent water intake is scientifically linked to having more muscle. And finally, the big one. Start thinking of the pump not as a feeling, but as a biological tool you can use to get bigger and stronger. So I'll just leave you with this one last question. You track your protein down to the gram. You track every single lift in your logbook. Are you ready to start paying attention to the one signal that makes both of those things work even better? Because that's what this is. Proper hydration isn't just a minor detail. It's a massive amplifier you can't afford to ignore. Hey, if this breakdown helped you see things in a new way, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on more deep dives into the real science of getting stronger. Thanks so much for watching.